Welcome to the Field Instructor Orientation. My name is Jody Papello and I'm the Director of Field Education at McMurray College and a Clinical Assistant Professor. This field and orientation will provide you with an overview of our process for field instruction for interns in your placement. And I hope that it helps guide the process from beginning to end in the sense of working with our students. When you think about becoming a field instructor, really we're just very happy that you are working with our practicum student. It's a great privilege to be able to work with you as a supervisor. Ultimately, we need you out in the field to guide students in direct hands-on practice, and it's with your dedication to us that we are able to educate professional social workers. So thank you again, starting off, for guiding them in this process. Ultimately, when we look at being a field instructor, what we're looking for is someone that can provide supervision in a way to work with our needs as an institution and your needs as an agency. So this PowerPoint provides an overview to the practicum manual, some of our policies on our end, paperwork that needs to be done, responsibilities of yourself as the field instructor, me as the field director, and as the student. The field manual contains all information and documents necessary for the practicum experience. These can all be found on our website, which is McMurray College Social Work, McMurraySocialWork.com. I apologize. The link is there provided on that slide. Every document that you would need, including this manual, can be found there, and students are also directed to go there if they need extra copies of any paperwork. I'd like for you to turn now to our field manual. You're provided with one at the interview process. Essentially, pages 1 through 5 outline a lot of the things that we are looking for in realm of setting the process up. So essentially, with the field practicum manual, pages 1 through 5 give you a brief overview of our process. The field experience essentially is a 200 or 400 hour placement where students are able to use their skills out in the field from what they've learned in the classroom. It also is an opportunity for us to discuss some of our expectations for our field instructors and our students, their readiness for field practicum, all of their requirements I've checked off on prior to their interview and working with you to establish placement. When it comes to our expectations for our field instructors, we are looking at different accreditation standards that are necessary for you to meet as a field instructor in our agency selection process. We want to make sure students at the bachelor's level are able to engage in generalist practice with HIBSE processing, micro, meso, macro opportunities in order to get a holistic, well-rounded education. So we'll look to make sure that the agency is something that the student is interested in. They have some freedom in choosing their agency, but they also need to make sure that, and I ensure that it's an educational academic setting where they can learn and use some of the skills from their first three to 4 years in our program. When it comes to the criteria for our agency instructors, again, this is all bound by our accreditation standards. We are accredited institution, and so the Council on Social Work Education has criteria that agency instructors meet. If there is an issue with any of the accreditation standards, that's something that I can work with you in the institution and the student to see if we can make some accommodations to allow the placement to happen. Continuing on in the field practicum manual, page 6 through 14, we have practicum requirements, safety in the field, and additional information. A lot of this section is really for the student. It allows them to understand what are some of the requirements of the placement, grading policies and protocols, safety in the field for them, and additional information about the policies of the institution, also following information about grievances or if there is a problem that should arise. I always hope that field instructors and students feel like they can reach out to me in order to help mediate, negotiate any issues that might pop up if they pop up during the course of the field. The practicum manual essentially as a whole allows us to set some sort of parameters. After the manual has been reviewed and the interview has been done, I ask that the preliminary paperwork is done. You can find that at the link embedded in this video at this website. This provides students with the opportunity to set an agreement up with you and your agency and our program. This is essentially what the practicum agreement looks like. It provides basic demographic information about yourself as a field instructor, also outlines some of the parameters that we're looking for when it comes to field instructors. Essentially, this agreement provides rights and responsibilities of all three of us, you as the field instructor, me as the field director, and the student. When we look at the responsibilities, it really provides us with an opportunity to set some framework for the work that's going to be done. Again, our student is an intern in your agency. And so as the field instructor on pages 1 and 2, you can find the responsibilities that we hope that you'll be able to provide for our student. On students' responsibilities on pages 3 and 4, including confidentiality, waiver of liability, the students, performing essentially as an employee of your agency, communicating with you, directly working with you in that sense. The agreement also outlines the responsibility of myself as the field director. Essentially, I'm a coordinator of sorts, a steward of sorts of this whole process, but in the day-to-day, you are the instructor, the supervisor for that student, assuring that their interactions with you then work together in order to make sure that the educational placement is academic in nature. And my directives can be found on page 5. So all of this agreement is signed and turned over to me just to establish an agreement that the student will be placed with you during the course of the semester for either 200-hour or 400-hour placement. Again, these can all be found on the website. When it comes to the paperwork to outline the day-to-day interactions between you and the student, I'll refer to the learning contract and evaluation. The learning contract, which again can be found on the website, includes essentially what we need to provide in the sense of an academic placement according to the Council on Social Work Education or accreditation standards. We hope this learning contract is something that's a fluid document that you and the student can work on within the first few weeks of practicum. It's due to me by the 3rd week of their internship. Essentially, the learning contract outlines 9 competencies and 31 behaviors that we hope students will have the opportunity to practice in real life situations at your agency. I have a separate PowerPoint on our website that walks through the learning contract in more detail. But essentially, it provides practice skills of the practicum experience and serves as a guide, so to speak, for evaluation at the midterm and the final. So what do we hope the student is able to achieve and it's able to do out in the field, and then how are we going to grade them, so to speak, on those. This is an example of the first competency on the learning contract. You'll see over to the left the observable behaviors. These are accreditation standards. In the middle, then, there's flexibility for you to work with the student on creating learning contract objectives, so to speak, that match up with your agency. And then towards the right, you'll see a gray shaded area. This serves as the midterm and the final evaluation area, and we'll speak to that just in a moment. Essentially, the middle portion, the learning contract, is an opportunity to create SMART objectives, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely for the student. It is the hope of the institution and for our program that the student really drives this document and works with you on trying to understand what are some of the services or opportunities that might match up with the said behavior. So again, you are working with the student in an effort to complete this contract that's due within the first 3 weeks. If you look at the competency 1, demonstrate ethical and professional behavior, what are the opportunities then in your institution where the student would be able to do that? Once SMART goals and objectives, and again, I'm here to help draft these and get these to be a working document to help you all with those processes if there are any questions. Once that's done, then on the second page of the learning contract, you'll see the opportunity for the student, for yourself as the field instructor, and for me as the field director to sign off on those. So at the beginning of the semester, when you create the learning contract, at the midterm and at the final, you'll see an opportunity for us to all sign this document, highlighting that we're in agreement on the learning contract. The log of hours is another document that the student is responsible for, whether they're completing 200 or 400 hours. The student is to keep track of their hours each week and have you and me sign off on them to assure that they have the complete 200 or 400 hours at the end of the semester. They have to have those completed in order to receive a grade. Again, this document can be found on our website, and ultimately the students are responsible for their hours, for logging their hours, keeping track of them, and progressing towards graduation. And this is something that we check in on in our seminar 4-field internship as well, to make sure that they're on track for graduation. The log of hours serves as a tool for you to use during supervision. It's a part of communicating with the student weekly on their learning goals, their hours, anything that's come up over the course of the semester, and of the week when it comes to supervision and working with clients. You'll see here on the right side is where you can provide your signature. The midterm evaluation is done at 100 or 200 hours respectively, depending on the length of the student's internship. The student, you as the field instructor, and me as the field director will meet to discuss the progress of the student in relation to their learning contract ultimately. My hope is that you will be able to meet with the student prior to my arrival for the meeting to walk through the behaviors and competencies to grade and assess what they have been rated for that learning midpoint. Essentially, what we're looking at is, were they able to practice the objectives outlined in the learning contract? What has been your overall input of the student when it comes to an intern at the undergraduate level for their first internship ever? How would you kind of compare them to other students? It also provides the students the opportunity to provide input on their learning goals, how things have gone up to the halfway point. And then it provides me with the opportunity to coordinate these communications and check in to make sure that, again, the placement is academic in nature and we are meeting accreditation standards. We'll ultimately review this midterm evaluation document, which is essentially part of the learning contract. Again, a blank one can be found on the website. The midterm evaluation is based on a Likert scale of all of the 31 behaviors within the learning contract. You can see here 1 through 5, where the student then is assessed on their ability to operate with those behaviors, but also if they've even had the opportunity to practice in that area. We recognize that in agencies, sometimes opportunities for certain practice behaviors or objectives may not have been met at the halfway point, and so that would be where we would give a lower Likert scale, closer towards the 1 range. Again, this is just a sample section of our learning contract. We're looking at the light gray shaded area towards the right, the midterm evaluation of competency of real or simulated practice situation. That's you out in the field. And again, you'll provide 1 through 5. Was the student able to, or did they excel in that area, 1 through 5 of a Likert scale, to measure their success and growth? What we're hoping at the midterm is just to see where they rank and then hopefully see the opportunity for growth at the final. So again, it provides the opportunity for your feedback with additional sections at the end of each competency for you to give specific area or agency information about the context of your Likert scale. This gives the student, he was the field instructor and me as the field director, a good feel for how things are going at the halfway point when it comes to the Likert scale rating. At the end of the Likert scale ratings, you'll see towards the end of the document a midterm evaluation where you'll provide an overall grade for the student, whether they are doing well above expectations at the placement, or if they are really struggling and there needs to be conversations about terminating placement. And then for the midterm, you'll also have you assign a grade, A through F grade. Essentially, these are not connected in any numeric or mathematical way to the Likert scale. These are all 3 separate evaluations of the students of the learning contract, with the learning behaviors at the Likert scale. Then it's an overall subjective evaluation, and then it's a letter grade for the student. You are ultimately responsible for 75% of the student's grade of this 12 credit hour experience. So it has a big implications for the factoring into grades. And so I just ask that you think about making sure that we're evaluating the students based on their abilities, their skills, but also their professional and soft skills, their personal incorporation of self into the profession and all of those manners at the halfway point. Ultimately, I provide the grade, so the final decision is with me, but I do take great weight into your grading and determination for the student as well. The final evaluation is at the end of the practicum agreement, whether that be 200 or 400 hours, and essentially it mirrors the midterm evaluation. What I'd like for us to do is to, again, take note of the progress that's happened over the last half of the internship, whether that be 100 hours or an additional 200 hours. And hopefully that we've seen a lot of growth from the beginning and also from the middle. When we think about internships in the course of a couple months, hopefully we see a lot of that growth with the student. The final evaluation is based upon, again, the learning contract, the competencies and behaviors and individualized objectives that you've created at the very beginning of the semester. Your input, whether that be subjective communications about soft skills or some of their hard skills when it comes to practice abilities, the students' input on their growth and development over the course of the semester, and then also the document then, the final evaluation document, which again is part of and built into that learning contract. We'll review that as well. My hope is that all of you will be able to meet together before I arrive, you the student and the field instructor, in order to go through this kind of more slowly, one by one, and then we can kind of review it, so to speak, at our meeting. If you need this document, it can be found on our website. Again, it's the similar Likert scale, 1 through 5, where you're able to assess students and their ability to excel in a particular practice area, or they didn't meet expectations, or they weren't provided the opportunity to practice in those skills. So if we look at the learning contract, this is the darker gray area underneath the midterm grade, which kind of provides us a quick ability to visually see any growth or lack of growth in some of those, any struggles that might have happened during the last half of the semester. So I ask that you go through all 9 competencies and 31 behaviors, kind of measuring out with your specific learning contract activities. Was the student able to meet that objective? Did they excel, or were they under expectations for that? And again, there's comment sections at the end of each of these sections for you to provide additional subjective, qualitative information that might help kind of discern what the purpose and the reasoning was for the Likert scale rating. When we all meet together for the final evaluation, we will review all of these Likert scale ratings, discuss the growth and the successes and or the struggles, and help the student frame the practical experience with the personal growth and the constant kind of growth that happens in social work, where it's not happening in a vacuum. So we'll be able to review that as well. At the end, we ask that you provide an overall review of the student and, again, a final grade that's worth 75% of their point systems for their field seminar, which is a 12-credit course for their graduation requirements. Again, this can be found on page 17. And page number 2 is where all of our signatures are, where, again, we'll sign at the beginning of the semester, at the middle, and at the end when we meet for the evaluations to document communications about the student's growth and development from midterm to final. Essentially, all of this, the learning contract, the midterm, and the final evaluation, is the same document. It's a fluid document. Hopefully, as we work through the semester, if there are any changes that need to be made to learning objectives, whether they were unable to be obtained due to funding cuts or schedules or timings of things, for us to be able to work on that document, which is something when you meet with the student weekly for supervision, you're able to kind of see, hey, it looks like this objective we were hoping to get made isn't going to, let's go ahead and change that. So again, my hopes are that you'll use that as a fluid document. The last pieces of information, documentation for us on our end, are the field instructor evaluation. This is your opportunity to provide me with information about the program itself, me as the field director of student hopes and expectations. There's an opportunity to provide quantitative data with a Likert scale, and also some open-ended questions for you to fill in any information about qualitative information that you'd like to share. This can all be found, again, on our website, and I will have the student make sure that they get this form to you at the end of the semester, at the end of the 200 or 400 hours, respectively. We use this to improve my interactions as the field director, the program itself, the field program itself, and also the McMurray College social work program itself. So all of this information is utilized and incorporated into our program every year. The other piece of evaluation that is important for us is a student evaluation, and they'll be responsible for that as well. Overall, again, I'd like to thank you for your time and your commitment to McMurray College and to the students, to the profession itself. We realize that you take on these students as an extra responsibility at your agency, and we appreciate you paying it forward to the profession and to the college. I look forward to working with you in our collaboration of these students. Thank you.